The title of this presentation is a preliminary report on Unangax MMIP 1959 to 2021 and Unangax MMIW Map 1741 to 2020. One is too many. My name is Michael Livingston, and the co-author on this presentation is Marti Murray. I'm a cultural heritage specialist at Aleutian Pribilof Island Association. I'm also a victim of attempted homicide. I've had friends and relatives who have been victims of homicide. I've worked in Alaska for over 27 years as a police officer. The co-author of this presentation is Marti Murray, who was raised in Unalaska and now resides in Kodiak. Marti worked for the city of Unalaska for many years and also worked for the state of Alaska. Marti has over 40 years of extensive research with Alaska genealogy and family trees. Marti is the owner and founder of Aleut database with over 600,000 names. Marti was adopted by the Kaolungan tribe of Unalaska for her outstanding work. Our abstract is that our research indicates that the Unangax people may have endured more homicides than others over the past 300 years. Possible solutions include collaboration, research, and training. Possible models include identifying hate literature, decolonizing methodologies, Alaska law enforcement response to law enforcement homicides, and the FBI's 1972 law enforcement officers killed and assaulted reports. The Aleutian and Pribilof Islands are located off the southwest coast of Alaska and also include the Shumagon Islands and the west end of the Alaska Peninsula. There are 13 villages in the region. One of the Unangax leaders is Anfisia Shapsnikoff, and here's a quote from Anfisia written November 17, 1969. "Things I heard of long ago are happening. Unknown people are coming, taking over our land and the things we made our living with. So let's get together and prevent these by speaking up." Our preliminary report covers the dates from 1959, when Alaska became a state, until 2021. We located reports of 9 missing persons, 9 missing indigenous persons, 28 indigenous homicides in the region, 37 additional Unangax homicides outside of the region, with over half of them being in Anchorage, a total of 61 homicides in 62 years, almost 1 homicide a year. In the region, Unangax homicide victims are 28% female, 71% male. The average age is 27 years, with a range of 1 year to 57 years, and also includes a boy age 7 and a girl age 9. This graph represents the 61 homicides from 1959 to 2021 in a bar chart with in the 1960s, we found 7 Unangax homicides. In the 1970s, another 7. In the 1980s, 10. In the 1990s, 16. In the 2000s, 12. And in the 2010s, 9. Again, for this time period, we located reports on 9 missing indigenous persons in the region. Average age was 27, 88% male, 11% female. We found that Unangax history is unique, with the Unangax people bearing the brunt of harsh European colonization during the 1700s, especially the 1760s. From 1745 to 1867, Europeans enslaved and forcibly relocated the Unangax people in search of fur seals. From 1867 to the 1980s, the United States government continued enslavement of the Unangax people to hunt fur seals, mostly in the Pribilof Islands. From 1942 to 1945, the Japanese military bombed, invaded, and occupied, as well as took Unangax people prisoner of war to Japan, where there were high attrition rates. From 1942 to 1945, 881 Unangax people were forcibly removed from the region by the United States military, and forced to relocate in southeast Alaska, where there were again high attrition rates. In the 1980s, the United States government abruptly released the Unanga people from slavery, and there was an uptick in homicides. Over the past 300 years, there's been dozens, hundreds, thousands of Unanga homicides. We also identified anti-Unanga hate literature, which is specifically created to foment hatred of the Unanga people. It focused on the hunting or skinning of fur animals, something about which the Unanga people were forced to do, first by the Russian government and then by the United States government. The hatred focuses on Unanga women and girls, but may result in violence against both females and males. The Unangax MMIW Map from 1741 to 2020 identified numerous homicides in the region, both the eastern Aleutians and the western Aleutians, as well as outside of the region in Anchorage, southeast Alaska, the west coast, Russia, and Japan. One possible long-term solution is decolonization, such as decolonizing methodologies by Linda T. Smith from New Zealand. Linda Smith advocates the research, collection, and analysis of data, indigenous training such as self-defense and warring techniques, speaking up to end the silence, as well as honoring and lifting up homicide victims. Another model is Alaska law enforcement response to the homicides of Alaska law enforcement officers. From 1850 to 2021, there have been 42 Alaska law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. Out of those 42 homicides, 41 of them have been resolved with a resolution rate of 97.6. The only Alaska law enforcement homicide that is not resolved is Anchorage Police Department Chief Sturgis, who was found deceased in 1921 in downtown Anchorage. Recently, on the 100-year anniversary, two researchers, Dr. Laura Koenig and Rick Goodfellow, released their research, which they assert was not a homicide, but was instead a suicide. Another role model is the FBI LEOKA, law enforcement officers killed and assaulted, reports which started in 1972, and they emphasize data collection, research, and training to reduce the number of police officers, law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. In summary, Unanga homicide rate over the past 300 years may be the highest. Our data is conservative. In other words, we believe that there's more Unanga homicides out there that we haven't been able to locate. There's a need for additional research and analysis to identify apparent contributing factors, short-term patterns, long-term patterns, so that the current and future generations can be informed, again emphasizing the collection and analysis of data as well as the training. I'd like to finish by saying Kagasakun, thank you. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or comments, my contact information is listed here, as well as SAMHSA helpline, the Veterans Crisis Line, and mentalhealth.gov. So again, thank you for your attention.